Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while. I did not plan to take a break, especially as long as I did, but I really needed it. August was really stressful. I was starting a new job and just having a hard time figuring out a way to balance work with this. And on top of that, I was dealing with some personal stuff that I'm not going to get into, but I think I have a good balance now and have it all figured out. So I'm really excited to be back and filming a new video for you guys. For now, I'm not going to promise that I'm going to have a video out every single Friday. I still have not quite gotten everything figured out yet, and I just don't want this channel to become something that stresses me out and makes it hard for me to do other things. I'm just easing my way back into it. But because I'm not going to be uploading on a regular schedule, I definitely would recommend subscribing to the channel and make sure you ring the bell so that whenever I upload, you'll get a notification letting you know, and you can come by and watch the video. But anyway, let's go ahead and start this video. This is actually the second time that I've tried to film this video. The first one, I filmed an entire 2 hours and then started looking at the footage and realized that I just hated it. I hated the way it looked. And on top of that, I didn't have my microphone on for half of it. So the audio was, it would have worked, but it didn't sound great. I also realized that 2 hours was way too long and I needed to cut things down a bit. I'm really excited about this video. It's a video that I knew I was going to do at some point. Now feels like the right time. So today I'm going to talk about how I knew that I was transgender and just the journey of accepting that fact. Like I said before, the original video ended up being 2 hours of raw footage, which probably would have turned into maybe a 45-minute video to an hour, and I just think that's way too long. So I decided to cut it into two parts. Part one, today's video, is going to cover the first 18 years of my life and what happened during that time. And then the second part will cover up to the point that I realized I was trans. We'll kick it off with my childhood. So my earliest memory of what I now know was gender dysphoria was when I was 6 years old. I've thought about this moment a lot throughout my life, but I didn't see the significance of it until I realized I was trans and then was looking back at my life. So I was 6 years old. I was in first grade. It was Halloween. We all went to school dressed up in costumes, and I don't even remember what I was. I didn't care. It was just a costume. But when I got to school, I saw the popular boys. They were all dressed up like cheerleaders. I'd never considered that that was something that boys could do. It blew my mind. I thought it was really cool, and I was kind of jealous. I knew that I wanted to do that. Not necessarily dress up like a cheerleader, but dress up like a girl. But I had no idea what to do with this newfound desire. I never told anyone. I didn't really think much of it. And from there, it just kept going. It got to a point shortly thereafter. I realized that I wanted to be a girl. I thought about it all the time. That was never a question in my mind. It was a fact that I wanted to be a girl. It was just a part of who I was. I always just thought that all boys thought like that and wished they were girls and dreamed about being girls all the time, every day. You know, totally normal boy stuff. And we just had to fight that feeling and move on. I had no idea that transgender people existed. That was not something that was talked about when I was a kid. But for the most part, it didn't matter. I was happy. I still got to do what I wanted to do. But things were about to change a lot. Talked about this before, but it is part of the story, so I'm going to go into it a little bit again. When I was 7, my family joined the Mormon church. At that point in my life, I had no idea what God or religion or anything was. Like, that was just not something we really did the first 7 years of my life. Then all of a sudden, we started going to church. Right out the gate, they have your whole life planned out for you. Things you need to do and how you need to prepare for adulthood. And it's very different paths for men and women. And I was on the men's path. And the more and more I found out about what my future was looking like, the less and less excited I was about it. So for the most part, I was just a very quiet kid who didn't really talk to many people and was just very uncomfortable. So the thing about being a Mormon in Utah, it's not just like a once a week, you see these people on Sunday kind of thing. It's like your whole life, your whole community. All your neighbors that are members of the church know you, know your business. It's a very tight-knit community that you don't get away from. So most of my friends were friends from church, and Yeah, I had them at school too, but the reason we got so close is because we were also in church together. However, there were also other boys in my church that I was not friends with. In fact, I did not like most of the other boys in my church. It was very clear that I did not fit in with them, and I had no desire to fit in with them. But the whole time this is all happening, I'm still having these constant thoughts and wishes that I was a girl. I mean, every opportunity I had to make a wish, on birthdays, saw a shooting star, it was always the same wish. It was, or I wish I was a girl. That was always a constant throughout my whole life. I also started thinking about things like reincarnation. Maybe when I die in my next life, I'll get to be a girl. I would pray to God that he would make me a girl, or I would hope that maybe once I die and go to heaven, he will let me be who I want to be and I can be a girl then. But it was all about to get a whole lot worse. Once I started junior high, that was when my dysphoria really started happening. Once I started going through puberty. This was when I was first diagnosed with bipolar, and I was going to doctors a lot, trying to get my medications right, figure out what worked for me. And for a few years, that was constant. I mean, I was going to doctors all the time, and it was really hard for me because I was not only dealing with the bipolar, but I also had all these secrets I was keeping in and not telling anyone, how I felt about the church and how I wanted to be a girl and all these things, and I wouldn't tell anyone these things. The thing that I hated most in junior high was gym class. Even before I got to junior high, my brother would tell me about gym class, and he told me that once I went, I would have to get naked in front of other boys. I was going to have to shower with other boys, and I was terrified. I had hoped there was any way that I could not do it. I would talk to my mom about seeing if I can get out of gym or something, and unfortunately there's just nothing I could do. So I had to do it. But I was constantly finding reasons and excuses to get out of gym. And luckily, my mom had my back because she could see how much anxiety it caused me, and it was not good for me. So she would try to schedule my doctor's appointments to overlap with gym class. So when I got pulled out of school, I would miss gym. Or sometimes she'd pull me out of a doctor's appointment, and if I had gym after, she would just not make me go back to school. I would say I was sick whenever I could. In 8th grade, I actually got injured in gym class. And during the recovery, I didn't have to participate in gym. But I was pretty much fully healed by about a month. I was fine. I didn't have any more pain. But I just kept saying that it still hurt and was just lie because I was just milking it as long as possible to not have to participate in gym class. Eventually, I had to go back. But honestly, I probably only went like 2/3 of the time, if that. Overall, junior high was just horrible. It is for everybody, but I hated it so much. By high school, I was on a good medication and had had enough therapy that I knew how to process my emotions a lot better and how to talk about them. So I was opening up a lot more to my friends and my family, and I wasn't as quiet as I used to be. So things were a bit better during this time. Still wasn't great, but it was a hell of an upgrade from junior high. I had a big growth spurt, and although I didn't lose weight really, I stretched out. So I looked thinner and I was just much less self-conscious about my body. I grew out my hair. A little shorter than this was how long I did. I absolutely loved my hair. I loved having long hair. It was my favorite thing about me. About the middle of high school was when the second wave of puberty came in. I started growing facial hair and body hair, and things were changing that I was not happy about. I wasn't consciously doing this, but I was kind of exploring my gender a bit back in high school. I realize that now, because as well as me growing out my hair long, I was also during this time, anytime I grew any sort of body hair, I was shaving it off. Basically, I was just trying to put off becoming a man as long as I possibly could. Another thing that I did during this time, my parents went out of town and my bedroom was right next to theirs. So late at night when everyone else was asleep and my parents' room was empty, I went in there and I put on one of my mom's dresses. And she had this big mirror in her room, and I just stared at myself for I don't know how long. Eventually I heard a sound coming from outside of the room and I freaked out and I quickly took it off, hung it back up, and made sure the coast was clear and went back to my room. I don't know what I heard, may have been nothing, but I got out of there. Never told anyone this. Haven't told my mom this, so I know you're watching. Sorry. I put it back. Yeah, and now looking back at that, I'm just like, how did I write that off as just like something that everyone does? So nearing the end of my senior year, I actually, for the first time, started doing research on transition. I wanted to know what the process looked like and what it would cost and how long it would take and things like that. This was in 2011, so the information I found online at that time was not the best. There definitely wasn't as much out there, and what I did find was not very comforting. There wasn't a lot of support back then. I was also horrified to find out how expensive it would be. So I got really discouraged and just pretty much decided, okay, this isn't for me. It's not something I'm gonna do. And I just didn't look it up again for quite a while. Shortly after that happened, I started my first real job, working at a movie theater. Graduation was just around the corner. I was finally starting a job. I had just been completely discouraged from transitioning, so I decided that it was time for me to become a man. I couldn't put it off anymore. When I started at the theater, one of the first things that happened, my new manager made me cut my hair off. I hated it. I stopped shaving my body, just let that go, and I got really depressed. So then I started adulthood, and I would do my best to pretend to be a man for as long as I could. But that is what I'm gonna talk about next time. I hope that this video was good. Now that I've finished recording it, I feel like it's just not the same since it doesn't have the full story, and the second half is way better. So let me know what you think of the video. I'm interested to see how this goes over. But thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate all of you. I'm really excited to tell you the rest of the story. If you want to see it, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you get notified when I upload it. Also, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment and let me know what you think, because I really want to know what you guys think about this video. I read all the comments and try my best to reply to them. You're all amazing. I love you, and I will see you in part 2.